What's going on, everyone? It's Justin here, and today I'm here to do an ultra smartphone comparison, but specifically talking about the cameras now that camera technology has really reached a pinnacle, in my opinion, in the smartphone industry. We're halfway through 2025, and honestly, I have been so impressed by some of the options that have come out this year, whether it is a phone that is available on a global level in North America or exclusively in Asia. I wanted to try the best of the best, and I feel like I have them all right here, and I also wanted to reference it back to my daily smartphone, the iPhone 16 Pro Max. We have the Oppo Find X8 Ultra that has a penta camera system, as well as the VIVO X200 Ultra, which is the ultra model of what I thought was the best smartphone camera at the start of this year. And we also have the Xiaomi 15 Ultra, and that is the only phone out of the three here that is available at a global level. They all have very impressive sets of features, from the incredible design and collaboration with Leica on the Xiaomi side of things, to one of the most extensive collaborations that we've seen with Zeiss and Vivo and the actual 200mm lens system. Whereas the Oppo Find X8 Ultra has a true chroma camera system that calculates white balance and color accuracy differently and applies to all of the cameras. So without further ado, in this video, I'm going to be talking about some of the specifics of each one when it comes to camera specs, their collaboration with their respective partners in the imaging industry, and whether it is a practical and actual R&D beneficial partnership or one that is just a branding collaboration, and also objectively talk about the strengths of each of the smartphones and try to come up with what I think is the best smartphone camera at the moment. So this is the Xiaomi 15 Ultra, and right off the bat, I have to say this is the most beautiful smartphone in this entire video, and honestly one of the more beautiful phones that I've ever seen. I love a clean design that integrates metal, premium materials, and feel, glass, and leather. You guys know I love leather smartphones, and when the phone is completely cladded in leather, I do have some durability issues, but I feel like this is the perfect balance that is comfortable not only in a horizontal but vertical orientation when you're holding it, and it is just a very artsy phone that shows its identity through hardware. It is made out of titanium, it also has a ceramic frame, and it has a vegan leather finish that is available in many different colors, and you also have the little Ultra badge, a minimal Leica etching here that is synonymous to all of their products, and on top of that, small details around the ring as it tapers upwards. I mean, there's just no flaws when it comes to the look of this smartphone. It is powered by a Snapdragon 8 Elite processor, features a 6.73-inch LTPO AMOLED display, 120 Hz. It also has a 5410 mAh battery with 90 watts of wired charging speed, 80 watts of wireless, and 10 watts reverse wireless. And when it comes to briefing some of the specs of the camera, it features a 50 megapixel f1.6 camera with a 23mm field of view, a 50 megapixel f1.8 70mm camera, as well as a 200 megapixel f2.6 100mm periscope telephoto camera, and last but not least, a 50 megapixel f2.2 14mm ultra-wide camera. So when it comes to cameras, I feel like Xiaomi has one of the most versatile lineups. It has a great camera across the board, and it also has a lot of features and excels in multiple categories, whether it is macro, as well as portrait, video, and obviously photo. I'm someone who takes photos in a telephoto mode more times than ever before, just because of how good some of these smartphones have gotten, especially when it comes to the periscope cameras. And I feel like the 100mm field of view makes a lot of sense, but having that extra resolution allows you to extend that zoom. And while I was in Asia, I was zooming in from signs so far away, and with obvious assistance with AI technology, I was able to see things after the quick processing that I just wasn't really sure if that was even possible within a smartphone like this. All the photos have exceptional dynamic range in the raw image especially, and when it comes to the partnership with Leica, I think it's very color and lens focused. They work with Leica for the tunings and the coatings, but I feel like a strong part of the collaboration comes through the colors. Being able to use the different modes of authentic, vibrant, as well as black and white as a Leica user before has been a lot of fun, and I also had the opportunity opportunity to visit the Leica headquarters in Wetzlar, Germany with Xiaomi to learn more about the collaborative partnership and how they've taken Leica's heritage and brought it to modern day smartphones, including some prototypes of a full-on camera attachment that goes on your smartphone and captures incredible images. I would say the photos on the Xiaomi 15 Ultra definitely lean on the punchier side, more contrast, more vibrance to it, and almost more character, I would say, and that is something that I experience from using Leica cameras as well. So the details are sharp and vibrant, a little bit on the warmer side, and I will say some of the cons is that the stabilization in the telephoto camera maybe wasn't as sharp as some of my experience on the other phones. The VIVO X200 Ultra is a phone that I was really excited for because after using the VIVO X200 Pro and bringing it to South Africa and really testing it out, I thought it was one of the best smartphone cameras that I had ever used at the time before checking out the Xiaomi 15 Ultra and the Oppo Find X8. It has a beautiful design that is really similar to the VIVO X200 Pro, which I mentioned was probably the most boring design compared to some of the others out there, but there are some subtle changes to the X200 Ultra that make it just a bit more exciting. I love this reeded glass right here, and I'm not sure if it's just because I love an interior design like this, but the reeded glass is really elegant. It adds a little bit of character to it, and if you take a look at the ring itself, it is a pretty large camera element that has some details going around the edge, but it definitely sits up a bit more than what I found on the other smartphones. It also is powered by the Snapdragon 8 Elite processor, has a 6.82-inch LTPO AMOLED display, and the brightest peak brightness of 4500 nits out of all of the smartphones in this episode. The battery on this phone is also 6000 milliamp hours, gives you 90 watts of wired charging, 40 watts of wireless charging, and it's just shy of the 6100 milliamp hours that you get on the Oppo Find X8 Ultra. And when it comes to the camera specs, it features a 50 megapixel f1.7 35mm wide camera, a 200 megapixel f2.3 85mm periscope camera, and a 50 megapixel f2.0 14mm ultra wide camera. So you're covered throughout the ranges with a high resolution ultra wide camera to a ultra high resolution 200 megapixel periscope camera. But in addition to that, this is a smartphone where you can actually pair that telephoto Zeiss set that allows you to use a resolution to extend that range even further. And go ahead and check out my full video of the VIVO X200 Ultra, but the results were truly impressive when it comes to the portrait photos that I was able to get on the smartphone in conjunction with the lens. But on its own, even without the lens, I was already incredibly impressed by some of the portrait images that I was able to get right here. So with Vivo's partnership with Zeiss, they're a company that is really known for its optical elements, whether it is in the world of glasses, day-to-day commercial uses, as well as consumer cameras and lenses that you see with Sony. They really do lean in to their experience in the optics, and it just makes sense that they have a lens partnership here. When it comes to the Zeiss partnership, I find that this has delivered a very authentic experience when it comes to colors, great optics and sharpness, really nice autofocus. But more specifically, the bokeh in both the standard photo mode and in the portrait mode is really where I see it stand out. The stabilization is also really good on this smartphone. Whether you're using the standard cameras or zooming all the way in, it was able to hold and lock really well, and I found that some phones were able to do that better than others. In this case, they've really nailed the zoom elements. And when I did like certain elements of what I would consider my version of wildlife photography with my dog running around, I was truly impressed by just how it was able to track and stabilize in video mode at a 200mm focal length and an external lens with the camera grip. So far when it comes to the camera hardware, you can see that a lot of these phones have similarities at this top tier. So one of my favorite tools that I've been using lately is Framer. I'm sure you've heard a lot about them and some of the amazing websites and creations that you can make using Framer, and I'll give a huge thanks to them for sponsoring this video. Framer is a powerful website builder for creating visually appealing and high-performing websites with a focus of design and ease of use. It is great for anyone who has limited web design experience or for advanced users out there, but in essence, it does not require any coding knowledge. Framer's new on-page editing feature is a game changer for marketers and for non-designers to update content directly on their site, and I love their contents focused approach. Some of the key features include being able to edit directly on live pages, such as CMS content of text and images in line with no need to open the Framer canvas. It is also perfect for marketers and content teams so that anybody on your team can easily pick up your site from where it left off, edit it, make live changes to it, and non-designers can also quickly edit landing pages, fix typos, and publish long blog posts without having to go through any designer support or layers on a team. I also really like the click to edit simplicity, so just go ahead and intuitively click on whatever you are hoping to change, modify, or add to, and it will allow you to do that easily. And it also has autosave and content transparency, so it will save your work as you go, but you also have the option to undo anything and go back. Framer is one of the trending tools right now that I've seen so much of, and I just love to see the custom creations that each person has made specific to their brand, and I just love their designer and visually appealing focus while also leaning in on the ease of use. So if you guys want to go ahead and check out or try Framer for yourself, I'm going to drop a link down below, and a huge thanks to them for sponsoring this video. So the next one right here is the Oppo Find X8 Ultra. And I would say when it comes to photo experience, I had the most time with this smartphone in particular. I brought it over to Lake Como in Italy with me, and honestly, I was surprised by how much one main feature impacted the performance of this smartphone camera. First, when it comes to hardware, I would say it's probably the most simple, safe, and almost boring hardware of all of the smartphones in this video. But sometimes that really isn't an issue. It really comes down to your personal preference, whether you plan to use a phone without a case, but objectively, it is just a simple design, a little bit boxier on the sides, and I will say it is a bit thicker when you hold on to it, but it also has the smallest camera element raise on the back, and it's kind of laid out in a 5-spoke design as opposed to the symmetrical square or the asymmetrical design of the Xiaomi 15 Ultra. You also have a nice Hasselblad logo in the middle. And I think one thing I can say about this video is that I've had experience with all of the manufacturers that these smartphone companies have partnered with. I know what the characteristics of those cameras are, and so I can translate whether or not the identity of those collaborations is seen on smartphones like this. This phone has a 6.82-inch display, a peak brightness of 2500 nits, 120 Hz refresh rate. It's powered by the Snapdragon 8 Elite processor, which is same across the board of all of these Android phones. And when it comes to the camera, it is a 50 megapixel f1.8 23mm camera, a 50 megapixel f2.1 70mm periscope camera, a 50 megapixel f3.1 135mm periscope telephoto camera, as well as a 50 megapixel f2.0 ultra-wide camera. So it is a 4-camera setup, but the reason why this smartphone has a penta-camera setup is that it actually has a true chroma sensor. And what this is that each photo that you take on any of the lenses, it actually uses that additional camera to get a true chromatic idea by splitting up the image into all of these different quadrants and getting the white balance temperature reading of each one in order to give you the most balanced, white balance possible. My experience with Hasselblad has really been focused on color science, and so I feel like this true chroma sensor really makes sense because Hasselblad is all about getting you the most accurate image possible with a distinct look when it comes to color fidelity and color data. This smartphone camera really did capture that identity, and I will say the characteristics of the images were very accurate. They didn't lean stylistic in any way that I found on the Xiaomi 15 Ultra or maybe on the VIVO, but instead a very honest image that was accurate, that was consistent, and possibly one of the best color reproductions when it comes to accuracy of any smartphone that I've used, because the true chroma technology is one that I found really does work. Some of the images were definitely a bit on the overexposed side from what I found, so you have to adjust that a little bit. But with that being said, even though I used it mostly in its most accurate form, you can also use some of the film modes to be able to get some simulations and profiles if that's your cup of tea. One thing that I also found very impressive on the Oppo specifically was the autofocus. It was was very quick. Whenever I took out the phone to take a photo while we were moving and in motion, the autofocus was one that I found to be very quick and accurate, which maybe surprised me a little bit because that definitely didn't come from the Hasselblad side. So as you can probably see, these are all very impressive smartphones that the average user will not be able to take advantage of when it comes to everyday photos. It really is in that ultra tier of both price and features. You'll see across the board, all of these phones have an impressive set of hardware. 50 megapixel sensors at a minimum, whether it is the ultra-wide camera, the main camera, the telephoto camera, and in some cases another telephoto camera, with two of them also having 200 megapixel sensors. What I will say is that when it comes to focal length of the ultra-wide cameras, two of these smartphones are 14 millimeters, one is 15 millimeters. However, from my experience, the VIVO X200 Ultra had the best ultra-wide photos, and when it came to everyday photos, I would say it really comes down to personal preferences because all of them provided incredible results across the board when it came to the main camera. Just taking an everyday photo of a building really comes down to the style that you like. The photo that had the most character definitely came from the Xiaomi 15 Ultra and the VIVO X200 Ultra. But where I really enjoyed the VIVO specifically is in its portrait mode. Even though it had a lot of processing, the photos just looked so good, and if you paired up that 200mm lens, it takes that experience to the next level. But the Xiaomi 15 Ultra was also pretty similar in terms of having great character just when it came to everyday photos, but especially when it came to portrait mode and low light. As for the telephoto test, take a look at all of these images. And I mean, it is crazy how much these phones are able to zoom nowadays, but I would say the phone that is best at the zoom is the VIVO X200 Ultra. As for the low light performance, I found that the most natural and postable photo in low light that wasn't over processed and had a good amount of contrast and character without editing was the Xiaomi 15 Ultra. I mean, the photos were just so beautiful coming out of the smartphone, and I absolutely love the results that I was able to get. To sum up my experience, I would say the most impressive set of cameras right now is the VIVO X200 Ultra. I mean, just across the board, the hardware partnership that works, as well as the lens, is truly unbeatable. A lot of times when we see an additional piece of hardware, it can often just be like a marketing gimmick or something that you just don't really use, but honestly, I was so impressed. Whereas the Xiaomi 15 Ultra is probably the most fun out of the bunch here. You get to really embrace the elements of Leica when you're taking photos out in the street, candid, use the film simulations, and I personally really liked some of the presets that were built into the Xiaomi 15 Ultra, but at the same time, when it comes to a very solid, honest, and color accurate image, the Oppo Find X8 Ultra did an incredible job. I feel like if you're someone who wants to edit your photos afterwards and really bring the most out of an image, if you're experienced in that field, then the Oppo Find X8 Ultra is your pick. But if you're a casual photographer who just wants to have fun, capture moments, maybe not do too much editing, just want a cool processed look out of the camera that still does look pretty natural, the Xiaomi 15 Ultra would be your pick. And if you're outside of China, unfortunately, that is your only option. So at the end of the day, how does this stack up against my daily iPhone 16 Pro Max? And on paper, it isn't really a fair comparison because I'm the first to admit that the iPhone, when it comes to hardware, has somewhat been passive. And we've seen that with Samsung as well in my review of that. But out of all of these smartphones, the phone that I would say I would want to use if I had to pick a phone for video specifically would probably still lean towards the iPhone, just because on social media, it is the most recognizable look. I wouldn't say it is the best when it comes to hardware elements, and I still don't film very much content on my iPhone specifically, but it is the most refined experience when it comes to shooting video on the iPhone. When it comes to photos as well, it still looks great. I mean, it is still up there in terms of some of the best smartphone cameras on the market, but whether or not it can compete with the Ultra phones in this league is where there is a lot of questions. It doesn't have that X factor of a stylistic element, insane zoom, AI features whether you need them or not. The portrait mode is pretty solid and the customizability is there, but at the end of the day, these phones that I'm talking about just offer so much more, and I feel like it's up to Apple to really show what they are capable of, because we know what they're capable of deep down, but it isn't seen in this design and this smartphone at the moment, especially with how quick innovation has been in just a span of say 6 months from when I first did a Pro comparison to the Ultra phones that took a phone that was already ahead to the next level. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and as always, if you enjoyed it, make sure to go ahead and drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and I mean, at the end of the day, it was really hard to figure out which smartphone was the best. But let me know in the comments section below which one you think is best, and as always, if you enjoyed it, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all in the next one.